4 Midwest Guys presents Origins of Justice, a 4-part 4 Midwest Guys miniseries. Part 4, Batman v Superman Reactions.
Hello everybody and welcome back to 4 Midwest Guys presents Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Reactions. The last part of our 4-part miniseries on Batman v Superman. With me today is Mr. Brian Akenbauer.
What's up, what's up?
What's going on, B? And my brother Aaron.
Hey, how's it going, man?
And the Dirty Jay-Z.
Yeah, I got a reaction for you.
Yeah, I know. So, how's the show going to work? Well, we're going to break it down into, the first part's going to be a non-spoiler review. So, for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, you can just listen all the way up to the non-spoiler review part. Then we'll go into a spoiler section. And in that spoiler section, we're going to go over what worked and what didn't work, as well as was it true to characters. And then we're going to do some quick fire questions before we finally get into our final thoughts and grades. So let's get into the non-spoiler section, gentlemen, because there is a lot to cover here. Just real briefly, for those out there, we're going to just give your non-spoiler thoughts on what you thought the movie was. And John, I'll let you go first.
It was a mess. I mean, plain and simple, it was a mess from one scene to the next. Like, it's been a while since I've seen it, but all I remember from it is just thinking the dialogue was just so awful from like every scene. And it's just like they ended weird, they were structured weird, the characters did non-heroic stuff, they just kept doing stupid things that never really connected. They were just simply there to advance to the next plot point. It was just, I mean, I think because Warner Brothers and DC are trying to not copycat Marvel, like to try to build up to the Justice League movie, they just simply wrote it like they wrote it with a shotgun and just like shot at the script, and whatever stuck was what they came up with. And yeah, it's a mess. I mean, more or less, it's like watching somebody in poker bluffing and they have their terrible hand called, and in this case, that terrible hand is the script.
You know, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I think all of it, most of it, for me anyway, is the editing. I think there's a good movie in there. I think there's good themes, good ideas. It's just, it's all jumbled. And because it's jumbled and it's not in a good sequence of events, it's very hard to get yourself into a certain scene because the scenes change so quickly and without any transition in them. That was just my quick non-spoiler thought on it. Aaron, what was yours?
Yeah, I think my opinion's kind of similar. Like, the editing just kills the immersion in this film. And back to John's point, like, it feels like almost half the dialogue scenes, like you're only getting like half what they're talking about. Like, there's scenes where Luthor's talking to the senator where you're just like, you don't know how it transitioned to that or how it kind of left off, and just the dialogue seems so out of place because of how it's cutting it. Like, before the movie came out, there was a story about them releasing like an R-rated extended cut. And at the time, I thought it was DC being reactionary to Deadpool, saying that, you know, they can be just as edgy sort of thing. And now having watched it, I think the extended cut might be what they originally were going to put out, and it was just too long, or it got too dark, or something, and just Warner Brothers just cut it. Like, they just kind of cut it to make it, you know, a lot faster, because the movie's already like 2 hours and 45 minutes, and that was an additional 30 minutes on top of that. So, to be honest, I'm kind of thinking the R-rated extended cut is going to be the one that actually makes more sense. It's going to be, you know, a lot better. But even then, it's going to be a flawed movie with certain plot holes and a little heavy-handed dialogue. But I think it can be a lot better with the extended cut. And if you're kind of on the fence about seeing it, you might want to wait for that.
Okay. Brian, what's your non-spoiler take?
Although most people say it's choppy, which it is, don't get me wrong. For me, actually, it feels like I'm reading a comic with the way it jumps from scene to scene, you know, bringing everything along at its own pace, which kind of seems jumbled. But as you're watching, it kind of feels like everything's, you know, coming along to one final spot at the end. It almost feels like it's someone's interpretation of what a comic would be in real life. Aside from the you know, the cut scenes the transitions would have helped with that. But that was my take on it. But yeah, like for most people, I guess it felt like a jumbled mess.
Okay. All right. So from this point forward, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you do not want to be spoiled, stop this podcast right here. Watch the movie and come back and listen to the rest of the podcast. So I'll give you 2 seconds. This tape will self-destruct. In 3, 2,
You still record on tape?
1. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's how we do our podcast, is on tapes.
Oh, no wonder it
And-
takes so long.
And you count it down.
And I count it down. Okay, so from this point forward, you are now in the spoiler section. Warning, warning, danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Well, I'll spoil the shit out of this.
So Jimmy Olsen dies in the beginning of the film. That's a thing. in terms
If
of
it was
spoilers.
Jimmy Olsen,
no,
though.
they've confirmed
No,
that.
that
They
was
did?
Jimmy.
Really? They really
yeah, they
Jimmy.
confirmed that. They
Okay.
killed Jimmy Olsen.
He kind of looked like him, but I just...
Yeah,
you know.
no. Snyder commented on it. They killed him right in the beginning scene.
I'm actually okay with that. I never really liked Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
He's-
But who will take the pictures?
Spider-Man.
No one. No
There
one.
was that great crossover where Spider-Man replaced Peter Parker and when Marvel and DC crossed over.
Oh, really?
You know,
Yeah.
no one in this day and age has a cell phone that takes pictures. So
There you go. You don't need
Superman Instagram.
it. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so for the first part of the spoiler section, we're going to do what we thought worked and what we didn't think worked. I'll go ahead and start this one off. Again, kind of like I said in the non-spoiler section, I think this thing had the best of intentions. I like the idea of the broken Batman, the older Batman, the Batman whose Robin has obviously been killed, even though they don't really say it in the movie. It's definitely implied by what you see.
Yeah, it could be something they're kind of alluding towards in like the Batman solo film.
Yeah.
And someone actually said it's an actual frame from one of the comics
it is.
They've reproduced.
that they reproduce. Which
I can see
we,
it.
we know Zack Snyder. He does that.
Yeah.
That's essentially his directing style. Is he?
It works for
frames.
certain scenes. Like I thought in Watchmen, it did fine in certain spots.
But I thought that scene was really cool with the haha Batman jokes on you. But that's what I really. If there's one thing I really loved from Batman v Superman, it was the theme of the broken Batman and how much Batman has changed and how much harder and more gritty he is, and disgruntled and holding a grudge. And it actually kind of takes Superman to kind of bring him back, or at least that's what they were going for. What didn't work for me was was the editing. You just couldn't become emotionally attached to any scene just because of the editing. It was too jumbled for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scenes where, even like the first action scene where you're seeing like Batman chase down like the piece of kryptonite, you're not invested in it at that point just because of how jumpy it is, and you don't really even care about the action at that point.
Yeah, so for me, I think these major themes that I liked, it's hard to find the heart of this movie. It's hard to find a heart in the movie, and I think
It added a lot.
I think it's a movie that I want to see again, but I'm probably going to hold off until maybe the rated R version comes out.
I'm kind of interested to see how that goes.
But it's there. The themes are there. I can see where they wanted to go with it. But again, I think most of this is whoever edited this, if Schneider was involved or whoever he hired, they should have been fired
I just looked
and
it up.
never hired to edit a movie ever again.
I just looked it up. The guy that was the editor was the same editor of Independence Day and actually won an Oscar for Born on the 4th of July for editing.
Really?
Yeah, this is not only from an
All right.
Oscar-winning editor, but an Oscar-winning screenwriter.
All right, I have to assume there's studio fuckery with like how that was edited.
Then we
There's-
have nothing but Warner Bros. to blame for that.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's anything else. Like if they actually had a good editor for that,
Yeah.
they had to be like just cut it out as much as possible. This is going too
Yeah.
long.
I find that hard to believe just because it's probably the worst editing movie I've ever
Yeah, it's
been
up there.
in. I mean, it's
Oh yeah, well
Yeah,
it's,
like I can't think of a
short
worse
of the
one.
Blair Witch Project with the shaky cameras.
Well, I mean, you can look at films like Melancholia where it like has that distorted sense of time, and even that's a little easier to follow.
Yeah.
Like than some of the bits in this, and like you get a rough idea what everything's doing,
Well-
but you don't really care because it just.
Because by the time that the movie actually gets to the screen, there have been about 10 or 15 other cuts that have made it from like the first cut, which no one ever sees the rough cut.
Mhm.
Then you whittle that down, you get like about maybe 3 or 4 cuts into the director's cut. and then the studios take a look at it and they're like, well, this is what we want, and that could have been where a lot of the stuff happened.
I have to assume it is.
Something had to happen because I just don't understand if you they had to do test audiences. You would think with this much writing on the movie that
Well, it could
they had
be
to put
the-
it in front of the fans, and
I don't think they did.
The
No,
best thing I can think
they
is
really didn't.
Warner Brothers must have been like, we want this to be kind of a summer blockbuster. You can't have it going over 3 hours. Because that's a long, even by like Lord of the Rings
Well,
standards.
I get that, but there was no need to. They could have done this movie and made it a lot less choppy. At
Yeah.
least moved a few things around, and probably made a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
more
a
sense.
little bit, but at the same time,
You know.
there's so much happening in this movie. You're trying to add like the entire Justice League setup.
Well,
And,
yeah.
like, there's even like that flash scene, and then you have the dream sequences. There's a lot thrown in.
Well,
here.
the
And that's
dream
what-
within the dream was too much. I'll agree,
Yeah.
but
And that's why I say I think it's written with a shotgun, because they literally shot whatever
To
they
be
could.
honest, I see this film and I feel like they probably would have almost were setting it up to do like a two-parter, like they did with like some of the other like
Yeah,
say Mockingjay.
it did
for
feel like
Hunger
that,
Games.
and then all of a sudden it was like,
no,
it's
we're
not going to be a
doing that.
two-parter because we can't have two-parters back to back, so we're going to make it a one.
Yeah,
It was like, oh crap.
yeah, we're gonna do that with Justice League. You can't do that here. Just throw everything in.
Well, they had so much they had to do. They had to set up Justice League. They had to introduce Wonder Woman. They had to do hit all
Yeah.
of these points, which I'm sure DC and Warner Brothers were saying this is what we.
Oh yeah, I'm
do.
sure they insisted on. it. I was like, no,
So,
we need to
yeah,
start
I
our
mean, it
franchise
was-
from the get go.
but-
Go.
I mean, there was like
Because I mean, in its defense,
constraints
this
from
is actually
day
better
one.
than like Spider-Man.
But correct
like
me
in
if
terms of like how much it threw in.
correct me.
which Spider-Man though.
The Amazing Spider-Man too.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
that threw in more than this. did.
Well,
But correct me if I'm wrong. Does DC not have a storyboard team like Marvel does?
I don't think they have the same amount of oversight now.
yeah, and I think who they have on their staff for the comics is different than who they have for their like cinematic universe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like their TV universe is different from the movie universe
Well,
and
I
the
get,
comic
I
universe.
get that, but I always thought that they were setting up similar to Marvel, where they had an entire team to help develop the entire cinematic
From
universe.
my understanding of it, that they're kind of letting the directors have a bit more leeway in terms of tones for individual films than Marvel is, which could be actually kind of a blessing later on.
Which works when you have talented directors, first of all.
I'm not against Snyder. Like, I liked his adaptation of Watchmen. I thought he did the best you could really do with that.
But Sucker Punch, Man of Steel, and
I never saw.
I actually
Sucker
didn't
Punch.
mind Man of Steel that
Man,
bad.
I like Man of Steel.
I hate
Like, it's
Man of
okay.
Steel.
But
that right there was like my first clue as to how I knew this was going to be a bad idea.
Well, yeah, he definitely takes like kind of the more Miller approach to like how the comics do it, towards like the film adaptations.
And
Like really, even if you look at Batman in this film, he's clearly going with Dark Knight's Returns being one of the major references. You might have a little bit from like The Killing Joke or from was it Injustice or whatever that
you got
New
a lot,
52 run
but
was.
all right, well, you're groaning, John. So what worked and what didn't work for you?
You know, if you're referencing anything by like Frank Miller or New 52, then that's
There was some
exactly,
good stuff in
that's,
New 52.
New 52
Some.
started out good.
Yeah, by
There's
the,
some good stuff, but the second they started like desaturating all the colors and like redoing backstories,
I think
and
once you
making-
got around to the midpoint for New
make-
52, it got kind of
Yeah.
out there. Like if you look at like the first Batman comics that came out in the New 52 was like the Court of Owls storyline, and that was actually really cool. I'm not sure if you saw that one, but it was nice. And then
There's
a
some-
little bit after that, you got to like the Joker like cutting off his face thing, and
the
that
Joker
that,
cutting off his face.
that-
what
that
they
was
did
weird.
with the Teen Titans and
Yeah.
just what they did to Blue Beetle.
I didn't see what they did with
Oh
Blue
man,
Beetle.
they completely destroyed everything they built up for the new Blue Beetle with
Really?
that in the new
Yeah.
52. But going back on to what didn't work with this, I hate to say it, scene one was the moment I knew I was in for a rough ride in this movie. The second those bats start swirling
It's like-
around Bruce,
But it was a
lifting
dream
him out of the-
sequence. I actually thought it was
Even
cool.
out of a dream. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
I-
Zack
I
Snyder
thought it
can't
was-
do dream sequences well.
I thought it was really funny. I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that was a dream sequence." That almost ruined it for me.
Well, yeah,
it's like because
still.
it has that same Christ-like imagery we're used to seeing them portray Superman with.
So now
That's
we're
the
seeing
thing.
every
Yeah.
DC superhero
Yeah,
getting the
but
Jesus
Essentially,
treatment.
he created the Trinity, and he's making them the gods of the DC universe.
But there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. I'm sorry. If you thought that was real, I don't see how you didn't. Because the minute he started getting lifted up by the bats, I'm like, it has to be a dream sequence.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Oh,
no
yeah, at the
way.
same
I knew
time, it was
that,
like-
but it's still
it's
a
cool.
Stupid, it's
It's
still
still
a stupid
cool because-
visual.
Yes.
It's a stupid visual.
But he's the
It's
Batman
okay.
Rising. That's about
But is he supposed to be broken in the theme? So thematically, none of the themes are working.
But that's the moment where he.
But he's not rising from anything in there. It's just it was
I think it works.
going on to dreams, and then every other dream sequence from that were.
The weird thing
know,
is, once you
didn't
later
work.
on the dream sequences, it's hard to tell whether they're supposed to be like premonition-like dreams or like adaptations of his inner psyche, or especially because you have that flash sequence where he's jumping out the portal, which I hate that scene, but just because like there's something about Ezra Miller's voice that I'm so used to the TV Flash that throws me off.
Well, yeah, it's because it's Lex Luthor's voice.
Is it?
It's Michael Rosenbaum.
Okay.
Michael Rosenbaum voices the Flash.
No. He's talking about the actual like the Flash on the
Oh,
WB.
from the TV show, not like
It's on the
cartoon
CW.
Flash.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, I'm talking about the TV show, and like they have Ezra Miller, who's like
Yeah.
from like Perks of Being a Wallflower sort of thing. I think he was in what was something about Kevin. as
We
well.
need to talk about Kevin. It was his first movie, and then Perks of Being a Wallflower. He's been like the indie kid for a while.
I don't know, there's something about his voice that it doesn't connect right away. So I don't know. We'll see how that changes.
So what
later
else? What else, John? Sorry.
Just the whole script. Like I said before, like these. If I'm watching a movie about heroes, I want to see them do something heroic or something that defines what their heroic nature is in the story. Like if it's Batman, Batman is the force and the justice force that does what the police can't do. He's the detective. The
Well, yeah, but I mean,
person.
there's-
but
there's always
going
that
on.
line.
But Superman. That's why I hated Man of Steel, because never once in Man of Steel did he do anything that resembled Superman to me. And Zack Snyder has even gone on record and in interviews saying he doesn't like Superman as a character. And
Yeah.
he's approaching Superman as an anti-Superman director, and frankly, that's kind of irking me. So, I mean, he's approaching it the way Frank Miller approaches Superman too, which if it were
Yeah.
up to Frank Miller would have Superman.
that's why-
he would basically turn him into Marv from Sin City and just go around liquefying everyone.
Well, yeah, I mean even in Dark Knight Returns, he's like a tool of the state for
Still,
Frank Miller's
that-
adaptation.
and again, that goes into like knowing what Frank Miller's career later on down the road turned out to be. I mean, that's
And-
why
and-
I can't get into like any of Frank Miller's past stuff.
In
because
Miller's
now all
defense,
I-
there are other artists that went that direction with him. Like Superman Red Sun went with a very similar thing. It was an alternate kind of universe thing, but it kind of went in the same direction.
But
There's
yeah,
plenty of adaptations where Superman goes
yeah.
rogue or
Or
Right.
he goes tyrannical or,
Yeah, yeah.
dictators like. And I mean,
but
that's
it's,
one of
it's,
the things.
it's the themes that Miller embodies.
Mhm.
Like if we want to go into themes and elements and everything with the story, what Frank Miller does with his themes are they just betray everything about the characters to me. Like when I read the Dark Knight Returns, I mean, I get that it made it grittier and it made it darker, and that's fine. I get it. I respect it for that, but there's just something about it that just didn't strike me as Batman.
Well,
Because-
Miller's one of those artists who, a lot like some of the older Golden Age artists, who kind of like puts himself in the character a lot, and you kind of see his personality reflecting like the main antagonist.
Yeah, but after reading like All Star Batman and Robin and seeing what he did to every other DC hero, I can't get into him.
Yeah.
I really can. And,
Well, I mean,
and seeing that
it's not for everyone.
seeing that kind of mentality on the screen again.
Well, I mean, I kind of view like Miller's Batman the same way as like some of the Golden Age ones. It's an interesting take on it. It's not a take for everyone.
Going on. So, like with the rest of the script, I mean, it also. I mean, there's also so many things. Like there's something that writers are known about the idiot plot, in which if the character does something simple, do you still have a plot? Like if before a fight, Superman just goes like when he's like standing above the bat signal or whatever, he's like, Lex kidnapped my mother, has been manipulating us, so we fight. There's no fight. Or if Superman simply just like, I mean, he can hear Lois Lane underwater, under a building, like during a fight with Doomsday, but he can't hear a ticking bomb under a wheelchair. And just all these like suggestive things.
I don't know,
It's
They didn't
because he's
actually
connected.
suggest-
He's connected to Lois. I mean,
Yeah, it's an emotional.
I mean,
thing.
it's
That's
it's
how I
that,
look
it's,
at
it's
it.
that deep emotional connection
Well,
with
with the,
whoever's,
bomb-
whoever's
But I
the
don't.
center of your
You
world.
I never seen that. Like Lois pretty much doesn't exist, and she has no reason. They've never defined the relationship between those two with these movies. I mean, you get that in the comics, and in here it's just implied.
Exactly. So
And
why,
it's
I'm not-
impli-
why would
I
you
don't-
need to develop it in the
because
movie?
it's a story and they need it.
But
and
to
there's
the,
already
but to the
a
same
lot of
to the
stuff
same
in
degree,
here.
you just said in the beginning that the opening sequence where we had to see the the Waynes die again, that's what killed it for you because we've already seen it enough.
No,
So
okay,
we've
what I'm
already
saying
so we've already seen Lois enough in the comics. Why do we need to see it again to know
Well, we don't need
that
her in
those
this.
two are the they're deeply in love.
But we don't see anything about their characters. That's the thing, is we don't.
I don't think there's time. There's so much to put into.
To be
But
honest,
they put in all the wrong stuff.
well, I mean, you have to hit certain beats just to kind of move the story along, and I think that's pretty much all they kind of did.
And then, oh,
because I mean, you look at the dialogue and it's so choppy. Like they clearly just like, all right, that's kind of essential, but just add that because
they're just saying stuff to go to the next line or for the next trailer.
Mm.
And then as far as like stuff that didn't need to be in there, Doomsday. Doomsday is
Well, you
an
can make
entire story, an entire
Yeah.
script.
To be
And
honest,
it
you can
does
make-
not need to be a 5-minute.
Well, Grant,
To be honest, you can make the argument this really would have worked out better as a two-parter because then you could have added Doomsday, you could have added the Death of Superman story arc. Because the
just-
Death of Superman
yeah,
by
it's-
itself is its own story arc.
And frankly, it's a story arc that would fit into this generation. And if Zack Snyder, knew anything about developing a character, the entire story arc of the Death of Superman was wondering whether Superman fits into that generation. I mean, the whole thing was about the fact that he was of an older generation that the newer one didn't idolize anymore, and he was still needed, and it was his ideals that saved people. And frankly, that was the kind of hero we needed in this movie.
Well, yeah, either that or
We
you
didn't
look
get
at
that. We
something
got-
like Superman versus the Leaks, where you have like his take of justice versus a new generation's ideal.
Yeah, so instead we just get mopey Superman, who just is happy to levitate and allow, the population of Mexico to outstretch their arms at him in like one of the dumbest visuals ever.
yeah,
I
I
don't
thought that
know.
was okay.
there's a
Like,
lot. There's a lot
I
of
think you
reference
can
of
get-
him being the savior.
Yeah,
a lot
they
of
go-
visual reference.
they
in this
go
movie.
heavy.
But they go, like you said, they go so heavy into it that
Yeah.
it's not
They-
a symbol. It's just like blatant hitting you over
Superman
the head.
Returns was
It's-
really bad about that too, though.
Oh, I'm not
like,
excusing
and
that
to be
one
honest,
either. It
any
was
modern
awful.
Superman take does it a little bit.
Well, basically, they
They-
were showing you two sides. They were showing you the
Mm.
people who
Adored him and those who hated him.
exactly.
Yeah.
They were just showing you both extremes.
That's kind of how I took it. I mean, maybe it's a simplistic view, but all right, John. Let me turn the tables on you for a second. So, what did work for you? You gotta have at least some positive. It wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't.
I'll always throw it out to the actors because, I know Affleck wanted to do his best to redeem himself from Daredevil.
I think
and-
Affleck did really well in this. Actually, personally. Like,
Well, yeah, as I was saying, he was trying to redeem himself from Daredevil, and then you also have like Gal Gadot, who the second she was announced, she had like all these people on like online or on message boards and Twitter and everything saying like, "Oh my God, her boobs are too small," or "Oh, she doesn't fit into this," and
yeah.
so of course she's got something to prove too. I mean, and in some respects, Jesse Eisenberg's trying to do something new. So I'll throw it out there for the actors that they're at least trying to do something. It's just the script that they're given and the direction that they were given is is not there for them. Like, 'cause you have completely competent actors, a wonderful cast, and some of them even taking chances on a new take on a role, and they're just doing this in a movie that is not suited to what they're doing.
Okay,
So
that's fair. Aaron, what worked? What did not work? I guess I should say.
To be honest, for me, it's mainly the editing. There's some of the dialogue that's a little heavy-handed, which I think is true of Man of Steel a little bit as well.
Right.
And in this one, you have a few little plot holes, like throwing the kryptonite spear in the water and then taking it back, even though
Yeah.
there's no real dialogue about it. And so there's little plot holes like that. Maybe the editing, the extended cut might deal with that a little bit. But I think you're still going to have some of the heavy-handed speeches and things like that through it. To be honest, I actually thought some of this worked out a lot better than I was expecting. Like, I was not expecting, Jesse Eisenberg's, Luthor. And I actually thought it was a really interesting take.
You liked that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I think I might be in the minority about that, but...
Yeah.
I thought, like I said, it's admirable that he tried something new.
Well, I mean, especially because it's a complete departure from, the traditional Luthor. It really is kind of the Mark Zuckerberg kind of Facebook entrepreneur kind of take on it.
Yeah.
And it maybe makes him a little bit more manic, but at the same time, you look at, say, the Incredible Hulk, the first Iron Man, Ant-Man, they all kind of had that traditional Lex Luthor archetype. Kind of bald, venture capitalist kind of dude who's the villain. And I kind of feel like if they went with that route, it'd be just as forgettable as the villain in Ant-Man. And I thought it was a nice kind of departure for it.
In that respect, like 90% of Marvel movies villains.
To an extent, yeah.
I don't know. That was one thing that, I mean, I wasn't going to talk about it, but yeah, I wasn't crazy about this version of
I
Lex
understand.
or Alex or
it's
whatever.
a complete departure from, the traditional Lex Luthor. I understand that a lot of people found it annoying or didn't like the character.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I actually thought it was kind of an interesting take on it. And one of the funniest scenes in the film for me was that right before the Senate blows up, you see that little jar of Granny's peach tea.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of a funny bit. And for a movie where people constantly say it's too, it doesn't have any humor in it, that was a funny line. Or, just a funny little bit.
And on that scene, one thing I do want to add, and this is why I think Zack Snyder's a terrible director. Okay, the bomb under the wheelchair. There is a old adage by Alfred Hitchcock about how to build tension in a film, and that is, if there's a bomb under a character's chair, it's not scary until the audience knows it's there. When did we know it was there? Like until it blew up.
I don't know.
So there's no tension in that scene whatsoever.
But it's a bomb in the same room as Superman. Like if you know it's there, then you give Superman a chance to deal with it.
They kind of
I thought that was the better way of doing it.
Even if he's saying like in the later scene, I wasn't listening for it or whatever. But what?
The suspension is when she looks at the tea. And she drinks it and she looks at it, and that's what it's very quick build up. Well, whatever. That's when she knows something's wrong.
Well, I think when you know something's wrong is when his assistant looks over.
Or she turns at it and she looks at
Like there's a little bit there, but like it's just you're kind of playing off people's like or like facial and like body language.
Well, it was all about the senator there. Yeah. It was all about that. That's what they were using. I don't know. That was just.
I don't know. Like I actually thought that was a good scene. Like I wasn't expecting the chair just to blow up the entire place. It was a nice kind of twist to it, not in the M. Night Shyamalan what a twist sort of way.
Let's not go there tonight. Okay. Brian, you've been pretty quiet. What worked and what didn't work for you?
I liked the movie, so for the most part, I liked the way the characters stayed true to themselves the entire way. They didn't vary back and forth. Some of the script was bad, but a lot of the stuff that you're hearing people talk about is just nitpicking stuff. That's like if it was in any other movie, they wouldn't even have noticed. But this one, I think because you have Batman and Superman are such iconic characters.
Yeah, there's a lot of fanboyism to it.
Exactly. So of course they're going to nitpick at it. It's DC's really like first go at almost three-quarters Justice League. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the other thing is, like Aaron, I'm hoping for the extended edition kind of fills some of the holes up.
I honestly hope they do a complete re-edit. I don't know.
Well, either that, it's either going to make way more sense, or it's just going to add way more and be more of a clusterfuck.
Well, I don't know.
It could really go either way.
Seriously be,
I don't know how you can make it any more jumpy, though, than it already is.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being that. Like, I'm looking at that, it's like, they had to just cut so much out just to squeeze out, like, every minute they could to kind of cut down on time.
Honestly, if I find out they took out more plot points in that movie, it will be a giant clusterfuck, because there did not need to be any more plot points in that movie.
There are a few delete scenes that have already leaked where you see, like, Luthor with, like, in the, the little alien ship, and you have, like, a person from Apocalypse, like, in front of him.
Yeah. Okay, so more plot points.
Yeah, there's a few
Great.
more. Plus, supposedly Batgirl was in the film, but she got cut out as well.
God.
But I imagine there's so much in the dialogue that just, it had to just been cut out in order for it to be so choppy.
I don't know. I'm with you. My hopes with the rated R version, the more I think about it, because it is so choppy. It looks like they were forced to put it into a specific time frame, and this is what we got.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're trying to make money off a summer blockbuster sort of film. They had to have been like, no, this is going too long for our fan base or for the main public.
We'll see.
Yeah, my nitpicking is still screenwriting and characters.
So yeah, but I mean, the editing kind of plays a role in that.
The editing was bad too, but it's just like I can hear the dialogue and I can see like the lines typed out. I'm just like, what the hell were you thinking?
To be honest, I think with the dialogue, it's so hard to get into it. It just takes you out of it. And like, if the editing was better, I think a lot of that would be a lot easier to overlook.
Yeah, I think so too, because I really think it felt like a lot of the scenes were either chopped in half they chopped out the beginning
Especially
or
with
the
Luther
end,
scenes.
or took out the middle part and tried to scrunch it back together. I don't know. That was
Yeah,
just
there's a
kind of my
lot of
feeling.
scenes with Eisenberg where I just feel like they had to cut like out a good chunk of that because you have no build up. You just have straight to the
Yeah, right to the whatever you want to
What,
call
what,
it.
if,
Yeah.
what if it turned out
the-
it was just like 3
Linchpin.
minutes of Eisenberg improvising?
I don't know. I might
That's
see
a
where it
scary
goes.
thought. Okay, so let's move on to was it true to characters? That'll be the next section of the podcast. You know what, Aaron? Why don't you go first on this one?
It's true to certain adaptations. These are Golden Age characters. There's been many iterations throughout time. You have the Adam West version, which is actually pretty authentic to like the 1950s and 1940s adaptations of Golden and Silver Age. You have this that's actually pretty authentic to say like Frank Miller's like The Dark Knight Returns, All-Star Superman, Injustice, and a few others where they try to take that kind of darker, kind of more in some interpretations realistic approach to it. Where you have kind of the beaten down Batman and Superman and them dealing with society and the world, and it does some of that well. And in its defense, like those comics may not be everyone's favorites, but there's way worse choices they could have gone with realistically. Like you had, a Superman where you had Superman Red and Blue, where Kryptonite divided him in two and they had different powers, and you had Man-Bat, and there's lots of weird things you could have gone with that would have been way worse than the choices they made with this.
Superman versus Batbaby.
Yeah, something like that. Like, there's a lot of weird just one-offs in the comics, and there's lots of different interpretations. And there's certain comics this does actually mimic really well. And there's other ones where it, the comics, take a different turn with the characters, and it doesn't. So it does well for the comics it is trying to, replicate.
Okay, that's fair. That's very in depth too. Well done, Mr. Ankenbauer.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, Aaron. It stayed true to the comic it was trying to follow. I mean, plain and simple. It wasn't. It didn't like start off as, Super Friends and end up with Teen Titans. I mean, it
didn't go
stayed-
like, we're going to start off real happy and cheery, and then we're just going to bring it down.
Yeah, I mean, it stayed the same all the way through. The same kind of the
It kept
darkness.
it down all the way through.
The same,
had
the
some up
same
moments.
the
Like,
same
there
kind
were
of
some
darkness
fun
all the way
bits.
through. There were a couple of humorous spots in it, like when Lois Lane goes into the office and says she wants to go check something out, and she's like, I'll take first class or whatever. He's like, economy, or coach, and she's like, how about economy, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And they banter back and forth.
Yeah, there's some Jeremy Irons bits as Alfred where he does some, funny little, just sarcastic remarks.
Yeah, I mean, so a little bit of humor was in there. I would have been upset if they would have been, they would have started out saying one thing and then by the end of the movie completely did something different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so when you say stay true to character, they did stay in the line. There was no flip flop of,
It
well,
didn't
they're
change
taking-
midway through.
Right.
Other than the Martha scene.
Yeah.
Why did you use that name?
Sorry.
Oh,
Couldn't help
God,
myself.
that's-
Couldn't help myself. Go
It
ahead.
is
Brian.
kind of unintentionally funny, but it is a nice scene.
Yeah.
Mm.
But like you mentioned though, I really like this older, more I'm just going to kick some ass regardless of lives lost kind of Batman.
I've had it. Yeah.
Yeah,
essentially.
he's been doing it for so long. He's like, you know what?
Rules don't matter anymore.
I've tried to change people. I've tried to go this way, but now I'm just going to go this way.
Yep.
Speaking of the whole Martha thing,
Mhm.
it was almost like
a lot was cut.
it woke up Batman. Like he was in his zone where I'm just going to keep fighting. I'm fighting. This is my fight. And then when he said Martha, it almost took him at like one of those nightmares that he has seen, all the time. So he kind of just paused, like, why did you say that name?
He just goes through like a traumatic flashback.
Yeah, so it just long.
That's what I feel like.
I think
was cut.
what you're describing is better than what they put in the movie because
I don't-
none of
I
that
don't-
was in there.
I don't know that was all in there.
No, it was
Okay.
Well, I think it's what we. I think things were cut there because what happened was the transition was very quick. It seemed like in the movie, like
Yeah,
he
it's-
went
it's
from
literally
on
On the
I'm
benefit, though, that is
gonna
one
kill you
scene where
too,
Lois
I'm your
Lane
best
actually
friend.
does play her benefit. She actually explains out that scenario for
But
him.
I really think I think something got cut there because it was very abrupt. It was like the rest of the movie, abrupt change.
Yeah.
So you couldn't
it
become
doesn't have
emotion-
time for subtle
you couldn't
transitions.
be emotionally invested
Like it
in it.
really just cuts out a lot of the build up.
Exactly. All right, John, was it true to character for you?
No. God, no. It wasn't. Just
All right.
Is that 5 no's?
It's so many no's. I'm just the whole thing to me. You know, I've said before about like how I feel about a Frank Miller approach to not just Batman but Superman also. And this is exactly like when we talked about our hopes and fears. I said that was my fear, that it would be too Frank Miller-ish. It was completely Frank Miller-ish, and I just knew
It was
it.
probably better with Wonder Man or with Wonder Woman than Frank Miller would have been.
I don't know. Frank Miller would have spent like about 20 minutes like just idolizing her ass, but no, it's just, and that was the problem for me. It was like I came out of the movie and it was just I felt it was joyless. It was hollow. There was nothing to any of these characters for me. Like Batman, fine. I mean, we've seen him kill people before in Tim Burton's Batman, or we've seen him break his one rule in The Dark Knight or Batman Begins, whichever. What gets me is his use of guns, because he is a character that, he may have just said fuck it after all these years and just doesn't mind killing to do whatever, but he never forgets how a gun makes him feel powerless, and there is so much ingrained in the character of Bruce Wayne and Batman that is just so.
Well, maybe it's just because he's older.
Gun, but
you know what I mean? Like he can't move as fast as he did before.
oh no, he's clearly moving fast in the scene where he's rescuing Martha.
So
and he's
his
just
guns is his way to kind of
Well,
balance
in
out
the
a little
Miller
bit.
adaptations, that's why you do see him transition to that. It is kind of a parable of aging and
that's what-
decadence and things like that.
But he's not aging. Like we don't see him like
He's
feel
older,
like
but
that.
yeah, he's
But
still
no,
amazingly.
he's not. Yeah, he's agile. He's like
Yeah, he's
doing
amazingly-
chin-ups. Like
Yeah, he does
holding-
CrossFit.
Yeah, he's doing. There's nothing old or broken about this Batman. I mean, he is.
Well, mentally, anyway.
mentally, yes, but that's because he's based off the Frank Miller character.
Well,
But-
I mean, this is also a universe where you do see Robin was killed off. You don't know what happens to Batgirl in this because it
But
doesn't
that's
like
just
she's
it.
there.
It implies. That's what I'm saying about all these scenes. Like we see
Yeah,
hints,
lots
but we
implied.
never see anything that is defined, and that's
Yeah.
what you need to do with a good script,
Well,
regardless of what you're setting up.
once
If you're
again-
going to make these character choices, you have to define them.
No, that's fine, but I think that goes back to
Editing.
some of our points of editing. Is like we're
Writing, editing, everything.
This probably would have been better as a 2-part film.
This would have been better if it was just like if you want to have Batman and Superman in the same film. Approach it the way that it was done in the cartoon. Like you have them.
Well, which one? Because there's
Oh,
multiple.
the
like, you have
the
War, you have,
1997.
So you
Batman,
put the
Superman
rivalry,
film.
more of a rivalry than is that what?
Not so much of a rivalry as it is just like if we're going to introduce these two characters and put them in the same universe together, which that's another thing. Apparently, Gotham and Metropolis are just across the river.
Yeah,
That I
from
didn't
each
like.
other.
I agree with you there.
That, I mean,
that
so
does
again, is
bother
it
me.
true to the universe and characters?
Yeah,
no,
'cause-
it is not.
Well, I mean, it's always meant to be like the Chicago, New York kind
Right,
of
I mean,
difference, and
yeah.
now they're just across.
Now
the
they're the
bay.
Twin Cities.
Yeah,
It's just another part of Manhattan.
yeah. That part did actually kind of bother me.
And-
That's a
and-
weird plot twist for.
But enough on Batman, because we got a lot of Batman in this. As far as like what we have with Superman, he's a non-character in this movie. There's nothing about him at all that's complex or deep, or he has his moments where he just goes up to the mountains and sees his father, which thank God we got Kevin Costner as his father back again. He needed more advice from him. But I mean, he shows up, saves Lois, goes to the Senate hearing, saves Lois again, and fights Superman. That's it. There's nothing heroic or inspiring about him in this movie. I want
I'm
Zack
gonna make
Snyder away from Superman
All right,
to make him a hero
I'm
again.
going to make a small argument. He saved the woman he loves. That's kind of a classic heroic tale. I mean, that's more or less Django Unchained's entire plot point.
But you don't have any good Django moments.
Okay.
I mean, you've got him like showing up and like
All right.
shoving a
Oh, yeah,
warlord through a wall, who technically we never saw that warlord kill anyone. If you think about it.
But he's
It's
definitely
implied.
he's the head
It's,
of a
but again,
terrorist
implied.
organization.
Yeah.
Everything is implied. Nothing
Well, once
is
again,
ever.
that goes back to editing.
I'm sorry,
We're
this-
starting to argue in circles.
In this day and age, though, I mean, you see that kind of thing. Let's face it, he looked like the head of a terrorist organization. He's the Osama bin Laden.
But again, but it goes into
like
the
a Boko
profiling
Haram
thing.
sort of thing.
But it goes into the profiling thing where, and again, yes, is Superman out there just killing? I mean,
Well, they did kill Jimmy Olsen. There's that. That's one dude that got killed.
but that also goes into that was killed by Lex Luthor's guy.
yeah, but
Remember?
he didn't seem that upset about it. He was like, "Oh, okay, well, he was with the CIA. Shoot him. All right, makes sense to me."
But yeah, just so much. I mean, there's ways that you can imply things and make it relevant to the story. This does not know how to do it. This did not imply anything well.
Okay. As for me, I thought, as far as being true to character, Superman, yes, I have to disagree with you, John. I think the Superman was I think they were trying to use the broken bat as a theme, and that they were trying to use Superman as being the light, the savior figure, if you will, and he's the one that redeems Batman in the end. As far as the Batman, the broken bat, I like the twist. I've said it earlier in the podcast, and I know we've said it off podcast as well. I like the idea of a Batman who's been fighting crime for 20 plus years, has
The more experienced
looks
Batman.
like he's gone up against the Joker and lost Robin. Someone who's emotionally broken, maybe not physically broken totally, but maybe isn't quite as fast as he used to be. So I don't know. To me, I thought the Superman savior character, to me, that's what Superman is. I've said it before, he's the light that, we're all supposed to aspire to. He's the hope. Where the Batman, especially, you can go broken with him because he is the darker of the two characters to me.
Yeah, he's the daily grind in the streets.
Yeah,
sort of character.
Exactly. So I think that's what they were going for. However, the editing, again, the choppiness, it really, you get lost. And it's hard to see that. And you have to actually go back and think about it. And I really should go see it again in the theaters, just this version. Because I think the heart is there, and I think the theme is there. It's just, it's buried, and it gets lost in translation.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, though, about like with Superman being the inspiration to him, I didn't get that at all when I saw it, but I think that's what this movie is. There's nothing going on to it that when people see it, they can get all of that out of it from seeing it, because there's nothing there to be seen.
It's too broken. You don't have time to think about it. You don't have time for your mind to wrap around anything, because they've already moved on to something else, or it's too choppy. There's no transition. You're going from this to that, and then like the dream sequence within the dream sequence. Really stupid idea. I'm sorry.
It works for certain things. I'm not sure it worked great in this.
Batman v Superman Inception.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Not in this sense.
No.
Not for what they were trying to pull off.
I don't know, like the dream sequence out in the desert sort of thing. I thought that was kind of
Like,
nice.
I didn't even recognize that
I
guy.
hated the Flash scene.
I didn't really even realize that was the Flash. Though.
Yeah, that's the Flash.
He looked like a guy in an Iron Man suit to me, because it was just the way they did it. But still, so to me it was true to character for the most part. I like what they were going for. It just, again, it's lost in translation. Okay, so that brings us to, let's do quick fire round table questions. All right, favorite quotes. Brian, what was your favorite quote?
I guess I already talked about, I like the whole back and forth between Lois and her boss, but I guess my other favorite line was Affleck's, "Well, I'm here." He would stand next to the bat signal after Superman told him that they turn it on, don't come.
Yeah.
And he turns it on, stand there, and all of a sudden Superman shows him. He's like, "Well, I'm here." It was kind of funny.
That's cool. All right, John, favorite quote?
Actually, I'll give Jeremy Irons' Alfred a bone here.
Yeah.
There were a few lines that he kept harping on Bruce Wayne about. It's like, oh, this is supposed to be for the Wayne estates. That's not going to continue anytime soon.
Yeah, there won't be a next generation here.
Yeah,
In your dreams, Alfred.
Right.
Yeah, it was
Those are some pretty funny.
It was kind of a
moments.
snarky, little sarcastic thing. It was nice.
It was nice. Aaron?
I kind of like Eisenberg's the whole God doesn't come from above or the devils don't come from above sort of thing. Like that whole little monologue thing I thought was kind of nice.
Twist on.
Yeah.
They come from below.
Yeah.
And they had that painting that was upside down.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of a nice little bit.
Yeah, it's neat, nice little play of the theme. My favorite quote was obviously when Batman goes to save Martha, and Batman goes, "I'm a friend of your son's," and Martha's like, "I kind of figured by the cape." I thought that was pretty damn funny.
That was up there for me as well, but I knew it was yours, so I didn't say it.
Yeah,
You wanted to take it.
Yeah,
you already had dibs.
You started the notes, damn it.
sorry. There's there's not a lot of comedy in here. At least not a lot. Not
I don't
like
know,
in your face, like actually make you chuckle.
It's
That
not-
actually made me chuckle
It's
a little
not
bit.
35-minute Marvel style, which
No.
is actually probably every
That's-
30 seconds, but
Then even that's starting to wear thin lately.
yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see if that's what they keep going with. They seem like they've been going with the same sort of thing film after film, and it works for them, but we'll see for how long. That's a different thing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Aaron, do you have any kind of favorite quote there?
Oh, the Eisenberg one.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
It's all good.
It's late. It's getting late. Okay, so
Characters.
favorite characters. Yeah, I'll go first on this. It's the easy one, but I'll take it anyway. Affleck. I think he exceeded my expectations. Awesome job as Batman, the Broken Bat. I've said enough about the Broken Bat in this
Yeah,
podcast.
they actually
but-
did a lot of really nice things with his costume too. Like this is one of the first Batmans where you really see like the white of his eyes really well.
Well, it's not the. This is the first Batman that's not like in the heavy armor either.
Yeah.
Batman. This is kind of more of the.
Except the end.
Yeah, except for the end
It's
with,
where he's
with
wearing,
the
like,
giant,
the
robot
suit of
Batman.
armor.
But other than that, this is the
Yeah, they
what's the
really
word?
they had his like kind of speed down really well in this as well.
Yeah.
Like, you really see him just kind of swoosh across the screen amazingly
What are you doing?
well.
He swooshed?
Swoosh.
swooshed.
Square.
But yeah, it was squale. Yeah, it had to come up. Yeah, I did like how they used the grappling hooks.
Yeah,
in
he
this.
used that really well.
I hadn't seen that since '89 Batman, so that was kind of
I don't know.
nice.
Like to be honest, I thought it actually used it a little better. Like it used it almost as well as like the animated series used the grappling.
Yeah,
hooks.
like you used to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
missed that. I always try to wonder if you can get like actually something in between your two fingers.
They'd actually have something.
It kind of hurts after a while if you ever try to hold something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, Ichabauer.
Mine was a toss-up between Superman and Batman. I mean, obviously, they were both the main people in the movie.
Right.
I really like Cavill's Superman. But I would say Affleck because of the way his Batman, Bruce Wayne switchovers, actually, he felt like two different characters.
Yeah, he does both parts really well.
He did it really well. And there was, and you could definitely see how no one in the public would ever realize he was the Batman. You know what I mean? The way, his
Bruce
personality,
Wayne,
it was really, really good.
Okay, John.
I think I think what Affleck brings to the character of Batman has got so much promise for it that when I read rumors that they're going to do a standalone Batman film and actually have Affleck direct it, I got excited because I think that's exactly what needs to happen. Because he owned the role, like you said, of Bruce Wayne, of Batman, and yeah, I would love to see him like an actually good director.
Well, he actually worked with Jeff Johns on the script too. Kevin Smith confirmed that.
Well, yeah,
So that'd
but
be
I
awesome.
mean, Affleck's got a couple directing roles under his belt, and he seems like he's done rather well with them.
You got a best
that.
picture for
Yeah.
it, so
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, yeah, The Town was like it's a very intense film, so he can direct action sequence as well, and so yeah, I mean, getting it away from Zack Snyder and having Ben Affleck take it, I think he can do that character like a really good justice.
Yeah.
To that.
Cool.
But what's funny is Jeff Johns is also part of the New 52.
I know.
So it may go from Frank Miller to the New 52. just to give you that bright side of hope there.
No.
In the New 52's defense again, I really like the Court of Owls storyline. I like the Damian Wayne's integration of Robin. That's a personal opinion, though.
Yeah, there are some good things that New 52 did, but for the fact, just like the mentality they had behind why they did it and what
No,
they
certain
did, it's just-
certain comics they did better than others. Like I love their run of Captain Atom, even though it was really short.
All right, Aaron. What about you?
Well, I think all of us are kind of going on Affleck's Batman. I thought Jesse Eisenberg's Luthor was really good, departure as well. to be honest, I kind of expecting them to transition him into like a Brainiac character since he merged with the like when.
And he said, "Show me all me all your information."
Yeah, I feel like it actually integrated like the information into him, and Brainiac is actually the computer that runs the ship and all the computers on. So I feel like they're going to transition Alex Luthor into like a variant of Brainiac in one of the future films, and I think that'd be kind of an interesting kind of take on it.
A nice twist.
Yeah, like it's a current, just little personal theory, but I feel like they set it up to where they could do that really well.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. All right, so let's favorite moments. Brian?
Well, obviously the bat and suit fight at the end. I really like that one. A lot of action in that. My next closest would have been Batman going in to the warehouse to save, Superman's mom.
Yep.
That was just amazing, just to watch him go through all that.
Go crazy like
yeah,
that.
And it was just awesome.
That's actually mine, but yeah.
Yeah, that was just awesome.
Aaron?
Well, the fight scenes were great. We also saw Amy Adams in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Not really a reason for it, but I liked it.
Oh, yeah.
So that was nice. So yeah, I like the action in that scene. So
Okay.
it's cool.
Cool. John?
It's funny, like, I think the most enjoyment I got out of this is, like, when the movie tried to be serious,
Yeah.
it just came across so hilarious. Like, the bats lifting him out of the cave, like, I just started laughing to myself, or when I hear, "Why did you say that name?" or just any of those moments. It's like watching Showgirls of a room. Like, it's, for me, it was just like, it was so badly done that I just started laughing. So, those would be my favorite moments.
Okay. Really, I guess the scene at the end with after Superman dies, I guess is kind of interesting from a visual perspective. It's very it's obviously, to me, it looked just like the painting of taking Christ down off the cross kind of thing. So obviously that's what they were going for.
Well, they do that a lot with
definitely
Superman, and they even extended that to Batman in this film a little.
Well, yeah, Batman's kind of like the, I hate to say, he's kind of like the Roman who crucified Christ and only kind of standing there, kind of thing. But so yeah, that was a very interesting visual scene. I don't know if I necessarily agreed with it, but you could definitely see what they were going for there.
Yeah, it's definitely a gods and monsters sort of approach to visually.
Yeah, my friend Sarah, who I went with the movie with, she even said she thought she saw like two other like rough crosses in the background.
Well, yeah, you see that
out
in
of the
Batman stream sequence as well, where he's the center person, like tied up, and there's two people that get killed beside him.
Right. So there's a lot of
there's a
visual,
very crucifixion sort of thing.
They're really
I
going.
almost forgot
They're
about
going.
that.
Yeah,
So,
it uses like the symbolism really heavily.
Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm crazy about it, but nevertheless, it is very visually interesting. So, all right, guys. Well, I think we have definitely dissected this thing pretty well. So let's just get into final thoughts and grades. All right, John, I'll let you give me the first final thought and grade, sir.
Batman v Superman, see me after class. No, I give this movie a D. Like I said before, my fears of it being too Frank Miller-ish were confirmed. The whole dark means more mature is like the new attitude in the DC comics, when it wasn't more mature to me. Nothing about it was mature. It's just like it was dark for the sake of being dark. I mean, it felt like those goth kids that had no direction or any reason to be goths, but they're just dark. It was just, I came out of it and it was just like, it was hollow, it was soulless, and the moment that sold it for me was like when we have like the moment when Doomsday kills Superman at the end. I mean, it's supposed to be a big moment. I mean, this is supposed to be a character that is like, it's supposed to matter, and I'm watching the funeral and everything, and it's not, nothing's resonating with me. So yeah, it just felt, I mean, that was the moment at the end. I was like, this was just such a hollow, empty movie. But if I do have to say one good thing about it, it's not the worst movie I've seen this year. So I'll give it that.
Okay, that's fair. Mr. Enkenbauer, your final thought and grade, sir.
I'm going to give it a B.
Okay.
The movie entertained me. I enjoyed it. And yes, it felt choppy, but was that because it was a comic to real life screen version, somebody's vision? Or was it, because scenes got cut out that made it choppy? The only real negative thing I wanted to mention was the cameos by the Justice League members. I didn't care for them at all. They were brief, but we see the Flash going on a milk run.
Well, I mean, he's got to eat, man. He consumes a lot of calories.
It was just so stupid. Aquaman looked like he had a hard time swimming through his own hair. I mean, it was just they were horrible.
It's just a L'Oreal commercial.
It was bad. So I didn't care for those. But other than that, I liked the movie, and I'm looking forward to the next ones.
Yeah, we did talk about that in the last podcast, that we were worried that like all these characters they were bringing in were just going to be cameos, and that's exactly what happened.
I actually wasn't that mad about the cameos. Like, I wasn't that fond of the Cyborg one because you don't really get to see that much of it, but I actually thought the Wonder Woman one was like a nice little setup to like the next film. And you just see that kind of 1980s picture.
The Wonder Woman one was the best,
okay,
but the
The
Cyborg one I thought was the
one,
worst.
Yeah, that felt like a web series.
Yeah, it almost looks that way.
Now,
Yeah.
I do have a question I wanted to throw out there before you guys get the rest of your.
All right.
From the vision that we see, the scene that we didn't like, and the way that they died in the beginning, Bruce's parents died in the beginning. Do we think that Flash's standalone movie is going to be Flashpoint?
I don't know.
Because they made such a big deal about.
I can't imagine it being.
About what was it, Jeffrey Dean, right? Who's the guy who plays his father?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Yeah. They made such a big deal about him being Bruce Wayne's dad that
Oh, right.
so that he, if they did Flashpoint and he becomes Batman, essentially Batman and then Flashpoint, and some of the stuff was,
Like they're going to create an alternate universe kind
Yeah.
of thing. Maybe.
It's possible, but to be honest, it would be longer than the movie to set that up. Because not only would you be using the film to introduce the Flash character and his abilities and maybe some of his like lower nemesis, but that's just like a big arc to put in for like a 2 to 3 hour film.
not really. I mean, there's the animated Flashpoint.
Yeah.
That's what they did in that one,
Well, yeah, but I think
and that fit.
Well, yeah, but
you don't take the time to like actually introduce the character in that. Like you really kind of just jump into the main storyline, and I don't know.
Well,
if
maybe
it-
that's what they're gonna. Maybe that's what they're gonna
It's
do.
possible, but
Maybe
I
they
don't
won't
see-
show origins of Barry Allen or anything.
It'd be
Well-
nice, but I'm not sure if they will or not.
well, we've seen how they like to imply stuff with this movie, so they could cut a lot out and just
I
say,
don't know.
there you go.
In
Here's
its
the story."
defense, like we do go through the origins of like every single superhero one. Like it's okay to skip it from time to time.
Yeah, but that was
especially with Batman.
that was what I was wondering.
And Superman.
I mean, just to add to that for a second, I could see that, but it would have to be like after Justice League if they did it, in my opinion. If they were going to do an alternate universe kind of thing.
like
do,
you
like,
don't want to have like the
alternates-
build up and
Right.
then just
You'd want to do
like
it
cut
like
it midway through.
yeah, you'd want to do it like after you do the big Justice League movie, and then maybe introduce an alternate universe, an alternate timeline kind of thing. Otherwise, you're just going to confuse people.
Well, they're already gonna do that.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
kinda
kind of like
I think people are already confused.
Kind of like
Star Wars.
Exactly. But
What?
where's Ray?
Yeah.
And that was my daughter's first reaction
they-
to that.
Well, we don't want.
Where's Ray?
You guys are always big about me bringing up Star Wars. You guys did it, not me.
I know.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
did.
So,
We did.
but
Because we're talking about how confusing things are.
Well, they-
I brought up the squeals before anybody else
Yeah,
brought
yeah.
this up.
all right. So just for the record, all right. My final thought and grade. I'll give it a C. The editing and probably the direction. I'm not sure. Killed this movie. Even the self-sacrificing Superman scene, like I was just talking about, was kind of lost to it. I don't know. I really do believe if it was re-edited, I think it could work. I like I said, I'm very sad to hear that the WB was scaling back or delaying their releases going forward because of it, because of this one movie. Even though I said in Hopes and Fears, I said, yeah, that this could happen. But hopefully they're going to give it another chance. Hopefully they're not going to completely pull the plug.
Oh no, they're not. They're not.
They're pulling it on the non-DC movies.
Yeah. So what the,
So they're scaling back like on the Harry Potter film sort of thing.
Yep.
Well, no, the Harry Potter's their bread and butter. So-
yeah, they're scaling back on the multiple big movies coming out at the same time. Like, what was the other one? The C one.
Which one?
The s-
Oh, the fact that their last 3 movies before this one were Jupiter Ascending, Pan,
Yeah.
and In the Heart of the Sea.
In the Heart of the Sea. Yeah. that
Yeah,
one.
they were all like $150 million movies that made like
Yeah.
Yes,
And
he-
got horrible
yes.
20
reviews.
million.
So they were saying they're going to the scale back was that they're going to do less of those movies
Yeah.
to focus more on the other ones.
Because they were reporting that in order for this to be considered like successful, it has to gross $1 billion.
It's
worldwide.
gonna do that.
It's well, from what some people are saying, like it's going to struggle to get to $1 billion
I
because
think it'll
it
get there.
started out at like 480 in its first week.
Well, I thought it
It's
was
already
up to, like,
past-
700.
Well, it's up to
already
700, but that's
yeah.
like slowing down afterwards, and
Yeah.
the giant percentage drops
Yeah,
that
it-
in
it
the
dropped
second
off.
weekend weren't just here. I mean, it went from being number 1 in China to being number 4.
Well,
Like it's been plummeting worldwide.
I think it probably by the time if they put it out for 3 months like they did with Star Wars or even longer, I think they'll hit it, but
Yeah.
it might take it a while.
But that's
Um,
what they're scaling back on is like their non-DC
Yeah.
and non-Harry Potter films. But the other thing that's funny to mention is like they're actually spending millions of dollars right now to do reshoots on Suicide Squad because apparently it wasn't funny enough.
Yeah.
So they're going
I
back
actually-
to add jokes.
I think that sounds horrible.
I don't
Like,
think that's
yeah,
a good idea.
Because
but-
Suicide Squad, like, I understand, like this is one of those things that stories that makes me think WB and DC are being kind of reactionary.
Which is exactly what I thought when they said they were releasing the R-rated cut of
Yeah, but
this. So
at the
like
same-
everything they're doing is reaction.
Well, they also said there'd be more Batman in it than we thought originally
Yeah.
too.
I don't know, like Suicide Squad doesn't really have to be a funny movie. It can be a dark film, and that's fine. So,
Right.
I don't know.
But anyway, getting back to the final thought, again, I want the DC universe to thrive. I think it potentially has the best stories to tell. It has, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for saying this, but it has the more iconic characters. It has the more popular characters.
Yep.
You know, what did you and I and everybody else, you know, run around in their underoos in? It was Batman. It was Superman. And it was Spider-Man from
Spider-Man.
Marvel. But those are pretty much your
Those are the
big three,
yeah.
and DC has 2. So there's lots of stories to tell, and I really want to see those stories told, and I want to see them told right. So, yeah. So that's pretty much just kind of like just my final thought. Great, I guess. So, but maybe they should think about maybe changing directors going forward. I will say that. I'll admit if it truly is if this is what Snyder really wanted, then yeah, I'd say absolutely change directors. So, Aaron, final thought, grade?
I'd probably give the grade like a C. Like, I think the editing really just kills the immersion for this, for me. I'm kind of waiting out to see how the extended cut does in terms of, like, how I kind of view it. Even then, I think it's going to be kind of a flawed movie to enjoy. There's going to be some heavy-handed dialogue. There's going to be some plot holes and some little things that are kind of, you kind of have to overlook. At the same time, though, like, the editing is the worst part, and I really feel like the extended cut has a real good opportunity to kind of fix that. And hopefully it does. Like everyone says, we want to see, the DC, movie universe do well. I'd love to see, like, kind of a grand Green Lantern universe kind of be built up in the, DC films or even back on TV or whatever. So hopefully it does well, and I'm really kind of hoping, the re-edit does a lot better.
Fair enough. Okay, so where can you find 4 Midwest Guys? Well, brand new, we now have a YouTube channel out there, and I have tested it out. And if you do type in the number 4 Midwest Guys, you can find our channel that way with a limited number of podcasts. This one will be included. We're going to try to put them all on going forward. Also, obviously, you can find us on iTunes. Same thing, type in the number 4 Midwest Guys. We're also on Stitcher, OneCast, just about any other.
Wherever you found us to listen to us this time,
This
you can find us there too.
Also,
Amazing.
feel free to review, send in questions, rate us, share, all that
Definitely
fun
share.
stuff.
That's
Just
the big thing.
make them all awesome, please. Also,
Or bad, just whatever.
No bad. Awesome.
Or
So,
call me an asshole.
all right, asshole. No, I'm kidding.
What'd you get for calling it bad?
I know. Apparently, yeah. Just doing message boards. They call me a Marvel fanboy.
Hey, I have been permanently kicked off the Force.net message board. But anyway, that's the point. Lifetime ban even. And they told me George Lucas hated me. You believe that? Anyway, all right. So you can find us on all these apps. If we're not on an online platform of some kind that you use, send me a tweet, send us an email. Speaking of tweets, we are continuing Twitter Quest 2016. How are we doing, Mr. Brian Eckenbauer?
Yeah, we're over 900 on the main one, and I'm over 900. I'm over 2,000 on mine. So send in your questions and stuff to Twitter. I'll respond back as soon as I can.
Yep, and you can reach us at the number 4 Midwest Guys. Ankenbauer, where can they find you, sir?
It's at Ankzone, ANKZONE.
Copy, and you can reach me at bwilly1977 as well. Also, you can reach us on Facebook.com/the number 4 Midwest Guys, and you can even reach out to us on through good old-fashioned email. It is becoming kind of old-fashioned. Anyway, the number 4 Midwest Guys at gmail.com. I remember when it's snail mail was.
Or you can
considered
write us a
old.
letter and you can send it to. Oh, I better give an address.
Yeah, no address for that. Sorry.
I think that's
P.O.
how you
box.
get swatted.
P.O. box.
P.O. Box them. All right, so Mr. Brian Ankenbauer, thanks for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Johnny, thanks for just joining us as always.
Thanks for putting up with me.
No problem. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, not a problem.
And for myself, saying, B. Willie saying, up, and away!